Guys, and welcome back to the channel. So the Supreme Court has officially given Donald Trump the green light to end temporarily protected status TPS for over 350,000 Venezuelans. Yes, that's despite an ongoing lawsuit challenging the move. Now here's the backstory. So TPS was originally granted to Venezuelans under the Biden administration due to the extreme political instability, poverty, violence back in Venezuela. But earlier this year, Homeland Security, I think that was around February, Secretary Kristi Noem decided to cancel those protections, claiming that they no longer served the national interest. That decision sparked immediate backlash. Migrants and advocacy groups sued, calling the move not only discriminatory, but based on completely false claims. I'm going to spare the details for the end of this video, so make sure you watch this video up to the end. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video. I've collected some clips for you guys from TikTok that's going to shed more light on this topic. Let's watch.
I am really wondering how the Venezuelans are feeling right now. How are they feeling right now? And I'm talking about the ones that voted for Trump. How can they live with themselves? Because we just had the Supreme Court that said they don't have any protections. Remember that video that I made that they were waiting for a Hail Mary? They really thought that there was going to be a Hail Mary done for the court, and they didn't blame Trump at all for him lifting the TPS, talking about it was unlawful. So how you feeling? How you feeling? Because tú votaste por Trump, right? Tú dijiste, este mi hombre, este mi hombre. He hates you. He hates you. Y no lo entiende, ¿la? Él no te ama. He looks at you as less than a person. So here we are, in which TPS is no longer like a really legal option. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but now a lot of Venezuelans are going to have to leave. Thank you to all those Trumper Venezuelans. You did this to your own people. Bye.
Well, we got some bad news for some of you Venezuelans. I'm gonna tell you, okay? Well, the Supreme Court had just ruled 8-1 in favor of overturning the lower court that blocked the Trump administration from revoking the temporary protective status for the hundreds of thousands of y'all. Okay, what that essentially means is y'all need to start packing and go home. Okay, now, I know, I'm an asshole, but listen to this, okay? The Supreme Court has just ruled 8-1 in favor of overturning the lower court. So again, if you have a temporary protective status and you are a Venezuelan national, okay, it is time for you to start packing. Get those luggage ready because you are about to get a one-way ticket home in care of, or I should say, thanks to this Trump administration. You had a nice vacation. You were able to wine and dine on our tax dollars, and now it is time to go home. Adios, amigos. Or is that, oh, that's Mexican. Sorry. Anyways, I just heard, the only person who has a dissenting opinion would be Tanya Jackson Brown. And of course, this woman can't define who a woman is, so we can't ask her to tell left and right at this point. Huge win. Small win, but huge win at the same time. So again, if you are a Venezuelan national, it is time for you to go. Goodbye.
The United States Supreme Court is allowing Trump to cancel temporary protected status for people de Venezuela. And they're allowing him to move forward and deport 350,000 people. This 350,000 people from Venezuela received TPS under the Biden administration after they left Venezuela, which is currently led by a dictator named Nicolás Maduro. Today, the Supreme Court ruled 8-1. So now, most likely, the Trump administration will move forward with the 350,000 deportation to Venezuela. Let me know what you guys think about all this down below in the comments. And like always, don't forget to follow for more daily fresh news.
Today, our Supreme Court is allowing the felon to take away temporary protected status from over 350,000 Venezuelans until a lower court decision could be made. SCOTUS allowed this to happen because the provision contained a rule that said the president can make this call without judicial review. And here's the thing. If the law says the president can take this action without judicial review, then that's the law. But we have to look at the mental stability of the felon or anyone who do this to marginalized people people for racist reasons, right? By removing this protection, he's putting these people in harm's way. They had jobs, friends, and families. TPS holders are our guests, or they wouldn't have that protection in the first place. And I'm sorry, but Americans don't treat guests like dirt. That's a maggot thing. Meanwhile, these families are vulnerable until the court sorts it all out. It's not cool that we opened the door to these people and then slammed it in their faces. These maggots need some church in them.
So mi gente, I'm at the airport and this news broke just as I finished recording today's videos about the devastating Supreme Court ruling striking down TPS for Venezuelans. I don't want the day to end without addressing this, because this decision means that thousands of families are now left in limbo with their futures uncertain, and I know the fear, the frustration, and just how heartbroken many of you are feeling for you and your loved ones. And please know this, our story still matters. You are not alone, and this is what you can do. Consult an immigration lawyer immediately, because some TPS holders may still qualify for asylum, for family-based petitions, or other relief. 2, gather and save all the documentation of your time here in the US, your contributions, and especially the risk factors if you return to Venezuela. And 3, stay informed through our trusted sources like the Venezuelan American Caucus.
Okay, so the Supreme Court just allowed the Trump administration to suspend, at least temporarily, and revoke the temporary protected status for Venezuelans. So there were at least 350,000 Venezuelans that have been allowed to remain in the United States because of humanitarian reasons. Now, remember, what this means is that this administration believes that it is okay to return back to a country where over 7 million people have fled as of May 2024 because of the incredible humanitarian crisis this country is undergoing. Another important thing to keep in mind right now is how this Trump decision affects South Florida politics. Remember that one of the reasons why Donald Trump was able to flip Miami-Dade County isn't just because of the Cuban vote, but also because of the Venezuelan vote. Now, for many, many years, Venezuelans have seen Donald Trump as a hero. The question is, what about now?
Breaking news, 600,000 people are about to lose their temporary protected status. The Supreme Court just this morning authorized the Trump administration to proceed with revoking temporary protected status for Venezuelans. Why is this important? Because earlier this year, they issued an executive order announcing the revocation of TPS for Venezuelans. Immediately, there was an injunction issued by a district court in California stopping this from happening until today. The Supreme Court says, no, we're not going to let the district court to interfere. This potentially could impact any other injunctions that were issued, stopping the Trump administration from taking action. Now, if you have TPS, what can you do? If you're married to a citizen, you can always file for a green card. If you're working for an employer, you can try to get the employer to sponsor you as well, or apply for a work visa. In many cases, if you're well qualified, you can apply for a self-petition green card under the EB-2 national interest waiver, for example. Speak to a lawyer.
Interesting. So over 350,000 Venezuelan migrants are now at risk for deportation. So today, the Supreme Court lifted a lower court injunction, which is essentially a block that prevented the Trump administration from revoking temporary protection status from Venezuelan migrants, over 300,000 of them. And remember, TPS grants migrants deportation protection, work authorization here in the US, and travel authorization when the US government deems that their country is extraordinarily too unsafe for them to return. So unless a new injunction is issued, deportations may start happening, even though legal challenges are still continuing in the lower courts. Please follow for more news, and do you agree with the Supreme Court's decision?
First of all, isn't this just wonderful? Yep, Mr. President, I'll be smiling big too. But let me add another thought. Why did it take the Supreme Court to clear the Trump administration to revoke the legal status of said criminals flown in under the former regime? But the Supreme Court, nor any of those wicked courts, would step in when the floodgates were wide open, when buses were used, if that's what it was, or
SUVs and cars were used to bring folks in across the border. Or as it says here, when they were being flown in at the behest of the Biden administration. Why now? Why did it take this type of action in order for the American people's interest to be put first? That is the question. Why was America last under the previous administration? And why did it take the Trump administration to even come in with the focus of America first? Now, I know some of y'all hate and dislike Trump, don't like the way he talked, didn't like his tweets, don't like his toughness, because some folks just weak. Trump is not the traditional politician, which is a good thing to me. The traditional politician wouldn't have done any of the stuff Trump had if they wouldn't have had the kahunas to do it, because they are bought and paid for. Their constituents are not, for most of them, their constituents are not the everyday American person. Their constituents are the lobbyists. The people who get the largest donors are the ones whose interests are put before the American people. Now, I know some people got to go do some research, which you should. You got to have all that fact-based evidence, paperwork, that most people ain't going to do any homework on anyway. And to understand how the game is played. It shouldn't be a game, but I understand we use that as an example. But once again, this is my focus. Why does it take the Supreme Court to step in after the Trump administration files their case or submit their case? Why does it take that in order to protect the American people, when all the executive, the legislation, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch are all supposed to be looking out for our interests first? Why do we keep being put last? My personal speculation, my opinion, is because many in powerful positions or key positions are bought, paid for, true believers in an anti-American agenda, anti-God agenda, a nation building agenda, nation. What am I trying to say, y'all? Y'all sovereignty, national sovereignty agenda. They into this globalism stuff. That's my personal opinion about the matter. But look around, do some research, and just pay attention. Don't just listen to the talking heads. They'll lie to you in a heartbeat. I always found this very interesting. Why do lies and rumors travel faster than the truth? Maybe because it gives people some level of comfort, and they think they know something, or they think that what they want is coming to pass, or coming to fruition, or getting the kind of results they want, or they hearing what they want to hear, even if it's either mixed with the lie, the truth is mixed with the lie, or it's a blatant lie. Truth does take its time. Yes, truth hurts too. Change for the best is not an easy, comfortable, and convenient process many times. It's just not. And I'd be lying if I told you I like change all the time, because I don't. But that doesn't mean it's not necessary. It doesn't mean it doesn't need to happen. So if you don't care that much about you, care enough for your children if you have some. If you don't have kids, care enough about on behalf of someone you do care about other than you. All right?
Green light, go. That is what the Supreme Court has just given the Trump administration, as they said, go ahead. You can revoke the legal protection status of 350,000 illegal immigrants that are Venezuelan who came in under the Biden-Harris administration. Before Biden left office, he gave protection to allow 350,000 Venezuelans temporary protective status so that they could stay in the United States for a little bit longer. But the Supreme Court just ruled in an 8-1 decision saying that the Trump administration could move forward and start deporting these Venezuelan migrants. Y'all think I might be celebrating this news. I am. Get the bad people out of here. But what makes me sad is many good people did come in. They gave up everything. They paid the cartel thousands upon thousands of dollars to get into America because they thought we wanted them to come. It was an open invitation. Joe Biden said, come on in. So now they have to be deported, and everyone's going to be mad at President Trump. But the people we need to be mad at is our past administration, who even allowed this to happen, allowed people to risk everything to come to America, give up everything. Now they have to go back to Venezuela, and they're going to be in a worse state than they were when they came into America. Let me know your thoughts on this one.
Okay, so where were we? All right. So here's what happened. A federal judge had initially blocked the cancellation of TPS for Venezuelans, warning that ending it could cause irreparable harm. But that pause didn't last because the Supreme Court stepped in and lifted that block, which now allows the Trump administration to move forward with ending TPS for over 350,000 Venezuelans immigrants immediately, even though the lawsuit challenging the decision is still ongoing. Now, this isn't just about Venezuelans anymore. This raises a very serious and uncomfortable question. What does this mean for other TPS holders from different countries like Sudan, Haiti, Morocco, and several other countries who have active TPS designations? But if protections can be stripped away from one group while legal challenges are still in progress, then let's be real, no TPS status is secure at all. Let's not, beat around the bush. This decision opens the door for the U.S. government to roll back similar protections for people from other countries under the same program. This move isn't just political, it's personal. That's what I think. That's my opinion. It affects hundreds of thousands of people who've built lives in the U.S., starting families, paid taxes, and contributed to their communities. But for me, this whole issue isn't just about the policy. It's about the kind of people the U.S. country, or I don't know if it's it's a country, what it chooses, the type of people it chooses to protect, and the kind of people it chooses to remove. I just wanted to share that before I get into these questions that I have. I've been thinking about these questions, two of them. The first question is that why is it that certain groups of immigrants and refugees, specifically, let's say it plainly, the Afrikaans speaking group, are allowed to go into the U.S., right? Settle and even receive support with far less pushback, while others are not only denied entry but actively deported. We're talking about 350,000 Venezuelans, many of whom fled political turmoil, extreme poverty, and violence, now being told to leave. Why is one group welcomed and the other criminalized? The difference isn't circumstances. It's in the perception. It feels like there's an outspoken hierarchy of who's considered acceptable or deserving of protection in the U.S. U.S. It's one and the same, right? Now, yes, TPS is temporary protected status. It's not permanent residence. Obviously, it says that temporal. And it can be revoked anytime. That's the risk. That's the risk every holder should expect. But then again, let's not pretend. It's just a technicality. These are real people who have built real lives in the U.S. under the assumption that the U.S. country would honor its word at least until the situation in their homeland improved. But instead, we're seeing these protections being stripped before the courts, even before reviewing the case. If that doesn't send a message about whose lives matter under that system, I don't know what it is that is going to make those guys wake up. And the second question is that I'm really asking this question because I want clarity. How is it that I'm hearing reports that Venezuelans under the TPS participated in the voting process? Because I know that voting is a privilege and a legal right reserved for U.S. citizens or those with legal permanent statuses, right? So if these reports are accurate, then something isn't adding up, because if people were allowed or even encouraged to vote, knowing that they weren't permanent legal residents, even turning around to deport them feels like a setup, like they were used or something. It feels political, and maybe that's how runs things sometimes. I don't know, but may you help me with the answers for that question. And that leads me to my final point. And I know that this might sound a little, but I have to say it. Hispanics, this is what you voted for. This is the administration you backed. This is the platform you empowered when you turned your back on Kamala Harris and everything her office could have offered in terms of immigration policy and support. And now here we are. Thoughts and prayers to you all, because this is not the America you thought you were choosing. Yeah, look, I'm just here. I'm just okay, let me say it. I'm not here to judge you guys, okay? I'm not here to judge you. People make their own decisions, okay? You had every right to vote for whoever, but voting has got consequences, and this is one of them. But then again, I do think it's important to reflect on what promises were made, delivered, and what was taken away. So what happens now? That's the question. Will more TPS programs be stripped away one by one? Are we going to see a wave of deportations across other vulnerable communities? Will this become a new precedent for how immigration protection is handled in the future? I want to hear what you think about this, guys. Please, this is something big that we need to talk about in the comment section down below. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Please drop your thoughts, share this video, like, subscribe if it's your first time to be on this channel. What do you think? Did the Supreme Court do the right thing? Do you think our TPS programs are now at risk? And how do you feel about the different ways various immigrant groups are treated? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll definitely see you in my next video. Please stay peaceful.